mistake that people do after attending a network event. And basically, that is nothing. Like doing absolutely nothing. I see so many people attending a lot of really good, interesting networking events, career conferences, all of these things, and then they go home and they don't really do anything about it. So today I want to go through a list of things that you can do and probably should do after attending a network event. If you don't know already, my name is Diana Nostrom. Okay, I think I'm backwards here, but it says Nostrom. And I'm a career consultant working with academic job seekers, international academic job seekers in Denmark, or who are not in Denmark yet, but want to get to Denmark. I'm a Dane myself. And if you want to know how to prepare for the networking event and what to do when you're at the actual networking event, which would probably also be a good way to start, you can watch my 2 previous days live videos. Wow, it's going well today. Where I talk about these 2 topics. So today it's all about what to do after the event. Some of these are like directly after, some of them are in kind of the days after. The first thing you really want to do after attending a network event, I say this like when you leave the networking event, find a cafe, find somewhere quiet in a park, on a bench, whatever it is for you. If you're at an event online, then be at home, do it, but find somewhere and take notes while everything is still fresh in your mind. So one thing is yesterday I spoke about taking notes while you're at the event after you've spoken to people, and that's amazing. Keep doing that, but also after you've left the event, breathe, take some notes while it's all fresh in your memory, so you keep everything, like, so you have everything. We have a tendency to forget, and the funny thing is we don't necessarily remember what we forget, if that makes sense. So having these notes can be really, really beneficial. This, by the way, also goes for when you've had a job interview. Then go and first thing after you end the interview, find somewhere to sit nice and quietly and take notes of like everything that happened, what's your thoughts about it, all these things. Okay, the second thing here is to sort your connections. So whether it's been a networking events that focused in your industry, or if it's been a career fair or whatever it's been, you're going to have X amount of connections, and some of them will be more important than others. So start by sorting these connections in relevance for you, so that you know, okay, so these connections are the ones I want to put most time and energy into and start with, so that you know that, yeah, you actually get that done, because sometimes we don't get everything done all the time. So start with what's most important, right? Then within, I would say, 24 to 48 hours after the networking event, for all the new connections, write them a thank you note. Write them and say, hey, it was so nice to meet you. I really appreciated you. I really found this thing interesting that we spoke about. So that you know that you've reached out, right? And you are polite about it. Hey, Savior, I don't know if that's correctly pronounced. I hope so. So write a thank you note. It's nice and polite, and I promise you, you're gonna stand out when you are nice and polite about it. But not a lot of people do this. But this is actually a way that is gonna make you stand out a bit from all the other people they met as well. What's your day? Thursday, right? I think probably the same as yours, depending on where you are in the world. I'm not sure if that was the actual question, but yeah. Okay, so the next one is that you want to connect on LinkedIn. This goes with like the thank you note as well, maybe, but the thing is, when you connect on LinkedIn, if you haven't done so when you're at the fair or the conference or the networking event, then send people a LinkedIn request again, if you've listened to any of my videos, my lives, anything before, you know that Denmark has like a very, very high level of LinkedIn users. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile already, I definitely want you to get one, and then reach out and connect with people. When you do that, write a message. So if you have a paid profile, you can do as many as you want where you write the message. I think when you have an unpaid profile, you can do it with 5 people. So again, this goes back to sorting the connections so that if you really want, then the top 5 people that you've met at the fair are the ones that you're using that connection message on. And again, when you have an unpaid profile, it's fairly limited how much you can write, but it kind of differs, right? Depending on whether you have a paid profile or not. You're also on Thursday. Amazing. And I'm not out in space somewhere, at least. Thank you. I appreciate that. Then the next thing going in, if you've had some really interesting conversations at these networking events, which I hope you have, because hopefully that's some of the takeaway from doing this, then remember to deliver on your promises. That means that when you connect with people, when you reach out to people, the thank you note, remember to include, if you promised them to share something with them. You promised, you talked about a book and said, hey, I'm going to share that with you. So remember to actually deliver on these promises. Or you were like, hey, I'm going to connect you. I was at a networking event 2 days ago, and I actually promised someone I would connect them on LinkedIn. And I just remembered right now, haven't done that yet. So when we're done here, I'm going to do that, because again, it doesn't have to be straight away. I'm just trying to kind of excuse myself here, but the faster the better, of course, but actually delivering on your promises. And that is super important, because it's also a question of like, who are you as a person, right? Like, you want to be able to be trusted with the people you connect with and build good relationships with the people you're connected to. So deliver on your promises. Then going back to LinkedIn, again, super important, engage on LinkedIn. So as I said a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday or the day before, about 3.1 million active LinkedIn users in Denmark, which is quite a lot compared to, we have like a bit less than 6 million people in the country. But not everyone is active. So that both depends a little bit on industry and a little bit on who they are. If you look at copywriters, marketers, communications people in general, all very, very active. Oh, thank you so much. But what you can do is engage on LinkedIn. So you want to be seen, you want to create value. So by going in and following along, looking at the people you connected with, then write them. Like, if I post something on LinkedIn, then comment on it, always with value, always something that you can kind of add to the discussion based on your area of expertise, or ask questions, something where you bring value. And by asking questions, you bring value, because let's say that you ask me a question that gives value to me, because you give me the opportunity to show my area of expertise while I answer that question. I'm doing well today. So engaging with people, both building them up, but also like showing off your own skills and expertise, is going to be a huge help for you, because the more you get seen, the more you are active online as well, the more you're going to be top of mind for the people you're interacting with. Then next step is to suggest follow-ups. So I wouldn't necessarily do that in your like first message, but as you get going a little bit, suggest a follow-up. If you haven't, you can also do it when you're at the meeting. Kind of talked about this yesterday, that when you kind of leave the discussion, if it's kind of, oh, we really want to meet a lot of other people, then you could suggest that when you're at the meeting that, hey, let's follow up at a coffee meeting. But here it's like follow up and like, hey, are you up for grabbing a cup of coffee and chatting more about XX thing that was really interesting, your work or your interests or whatever it is, or an online meeting. It doesn't always have to be in person. it can be a 20-minute, 30-minute meeting. Usually when I invite people for coffee meetings, I do like an hour. And that's because I tend to talk a lot. And I just like connecting with people, but it doesn't have to be. And some people they don't want to put like an hour, set aside an hour for it. And sometimes it's also that if you set aside an hour and you're meeting up for coffee, it's an hour plus transportation, right? So in this case, it can also be a good idea if you have the opportunity to actually suggest meeting somewhere close to where they are so that you're putting in the effort. I do know Danish. I am Danish, so yes, I do. um, okay, and then another little thing, and this might seem I don't know, devious is the wrong word because it's really not, but it's can seem calculated, and that is to have a network tracker, meaning that whenever you've spoken to people, all of the notes you then take, you put them into this tracker, so you kind of keep track of your network, because the whole idea here is to create relationships. It's kind of like this thing where um, Facebook have started a long time ago to remind you of people's birthdays, right? So I wouldn't remember anybody's birthday except maybe my husband and my sister and my mom, something like that, right? But other than that, I have no idea when people's birthdays are. But Facebook reminds me. Here, having a network tracker is basically that. So you can kind of create a system for yourself where you're like, okay, I want to follow up with these people every 3 months. And then you set dates in there. And then you write notes from what you spoke about so that when you reach out to them in like 3 months, then you can say, oh, how is it going with X thing that we spoke about? Or you had this exam, how did it go? Or how was your kid's dance recital? Or whatever it is that you spoke about, so that you're kind of following up. It's okay to have trackers like this. I want to say that, like, as back in the day before digital, people use notebooks. Some people still do. It's amazing, right? It's just easier to kind of be able to search in a spreadsheet, for example. But put people and the information into a tracker so that you have this opportunity to actually follow up and it being meaningful, right? Because yeah, it just really matters. And we like when people remember stuff we told them. Then I talked about in the previous videos, I've talked about setting goals for your networking event. So now it's also time to actually review your goals. So based on what were your goals before attending this networking event, and did you reach your goals? Did you exceed them? Did you fall short a little bit? And what was it? So that the next time you're attending and setting goals and all of this, and again, go watch the how to prepare for networking events video. That's 2 days ago on my live feed. um, how can you set goals then that makes sense for you for the next event? And then make sure to note down, and this goes a little bit with the very first thing that I said about taking notes when it's fresh, but also like that's a lot with the people you spoke to, but also make notes on what worked, what didn't work for you. Again, going back to the whole how did you reach your goals? Did you exceed? Did you not quite reach your goals? So what did work? What part of your strategy seemed to be good? What didn't? What can you change for the next time? Because the thing is, we have this tendency to fall back into our habits. So if we don't do this, we're just gonna like do the same thing next time. But if we're consciously aware of it and we're looking at it, then the next time part of our prep is to go back and look into the old notes and say, okay, so last time I attended an event, what was it that I wrote that didn't work? What shouldn't I do again? And what worked really well? What do I want to do more of? So by taking these notes, you're going to help your future self a lot. And again, this goes for networking, but this also very, very highly recommended for when you leave an interview, because some people get interviews all the time and amazing. That means you're probably also going to get a job faster. Other people, there's a bit between them. So you don't necessarily remember. And the less interviews you have, you're probably also super nervous, stuff like that. So doing this, taking these notes and like really being aware is a really, really good tip. And then the last thing you need to do is plan your next steps. So what's the next thing you want to do? What is the next event you're going to attend? What is other networking things? Research. Are there any interesting network events in your industry, in with specific companies that you would like? I know that previously, I don't know right now because Novo Nordisk is kind of in a lot of things happening, but they've hosted events. I know that I'm certified in something called the TT38, a talent test, where the people who've created that, they host networking events. I think it's once a month, right? Where I can go to those, right? If I want to. There's so many interesting networking events, and they can be in industries, they can be in general job search. It can also be just meetups. Remember that networking doesn't have to be in specific events, meaning that you can network at a birthday party, you can network at a net walk. For example, if you're in Copenhagen this Sunday, I have a net walk going on. So you can jump into my LinkedIn profile and there'll be a link there to sign up on one of my posts. There's a LinkedIn to sign up for my net walks. Every first Sunday of the month, you can sign up and it's free to join. And basically, there you go. There's an opportunity to network for you. We walk around Copenhagen for a couple of hours chatting. There's route, there's a theme, all of this. So these things where it's like maybe not quite what you thought you were looking for when you were looking for networking, but it's still a great opportunity to actually do that. So really, the last step in the process here is to prepare to start all over in a good way, so that networking is all about creating relationships and getting to know people, and there are so many places where you can do that. So if you have any questions about this, remember you can always write a comment in the chat or just comment on the video afterwards, and I will do my best to answer all the questions. If you want to watch more of my videos, this is part of a 30-day challenge where I go live every day. And tomorrow the theme is going to be 3 things to do when you write a cover letter for the Danish job market. And I hope you'll join. See you then.